The cell was silent except for her breathing. Cold stone walls pressed around her, heavy with shadows. Chains clinked every time she moved. The alien woman, young, fragile, yet proud, sat with her back against the wall. Her voice was hoarse from screaming. She had cried for hours, for days maybe. Time had no meaning here. No one is coming, she whispered to herself. Her own words felt like poison. Her eyes lifted to the small slit in the wall. Beyond it, she could see only darkness. The stars, once beautiful, were now hidden from her. Somewhere out there, her people lived, fought, laughed. But no one cared for her voice, not her family, not her rulers, not even her so-called gods. She screamed again, loud, desperate. Her throat burned as she cried into the endless silence. The sound bounced from wall to wall, until it became nothing. The guards never answered. The walls never answered. And in her heart, a sharp truth cut deep. No alien cared for her pain. Hours passed. The cell smelled of dust, iron, and sorrow. She pulled against her chains. Metal cut into her wrists. Blood dripped, but she did not stop. Maybe if she broke free, she could run. But the sound of heavy footsteps outside reminded her of the truth. Even if she escaped this cage, the halls were filled with soldiers. Her tears dried. She sat in silence. Her body shook from cold. Fear crept inside her like a living thing, whispering that this was the end. But then, a noise. Not the usual boots of alien guards. This sound was different. Slower. Heavier. A rhythm she did not know. She froze, straining to listen. Step, step, step. It came closer. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Maybe it was another guard, maybe worse. She pressed herself against the wall, ready for the door to open. The lock rattled. The cell door groaned as it slid open. Light spilled inside, faint, broken, but enough to show a tall figure in the doorway. She gasped. This was no alien guard. The figure was strange, unfamiliar. Broad shoulders, rough clothes, skin marked with scars. His eyes burned with something different, something not cruel, not cold. He was human. The alien woman had heard stories, rumors, whispers. Her people spoke of humans as weak, foolish creatures from a far world. They were called primitive, unworthy, useless in war. And yet here he stood. His chest rose and fell with quiet strength. His face, though worn, was alive with determination. He looked at her chains, not at her body, not at her fear. He saw her suffering first. She wanted to speak, but her voice broke. He raised a hand, silent, telling her not to cry out. His movements were calm, careful. He stepped into the cell, closing the door softly behind him. The human's eyes scanned the room. Then he knelt beside her. His hands, rough but steady, touched the chains. He pulled at them, testing their strength. She whispered in her tongue, "Who? Who are you?" Of course, he could not understand. His head turned slightly, but no answer came. He only worked. From his pocket, he pulled a small tool. Simple, sharp, not alien. With quiet focus, he began to pry the lock. The metal groaned. Sparks flickered. The alien woman stared at him in shock. Why would a human risk this? Why here in the heart of enemy walls? No alien had come for her. No alien had cared. But this man, this strange human, was here, kneeling in the dirt, fighting her chains without a word. Her heart trembled. Was this a trick? A trap? Or was he truly trying to free her? The lock gave a loud snap. One chain fell away, then the other. Her arms fell free. The pain of movement surged through her limbs, but she didn't cry out. She looked at him, her eyes wide with confusion and something else. Hope. He stood and extended his hand toward her. She stared at it. His hand was rough, dirty, scarred. It was nothing like the smooth, polished hands of her people, and yet it felt real. Her chest tightened. Slowly, trembling, she reached out and placed her hand in his. His grip was strong, but not cruel. He lifted her to her feet, steadying her as if she mattered. The cell was silent again. But the silence was different now. Not hopeless. Not empty. For the first time she was not alone. Behind the door, the sound of alien guards echoed faintly. They were close. The human pressed a finger to his lips. Quiet. Then he motioned toward the shadows of the hallway. The alien woman hesitated. Fear still lived in her chest. But something inside whispered louder than fear. Follow him. Her screams had never been answered. Her voice had never been heard. But now, against all odds, someone had come. Not her people, not her gods. A human. And, with that single truth, hope returned like a fire. She stepped into the darkness beside him, her chains gone, her fate uncertain. The story of her screams was no longer ending. It was only beginning. The hallway outside the cell was dim, filled with flickering red lights. Shadows stretched long across the metal floor. The human moved like a ghost, silent, careful, every step measured. The alien woman followed him, her bare feet trembling against the cold ground. She had expected her rescuer to speak, to say something that explained who he was. But he said nothing. He only moved forward, one hand raised, as if to guide her through the darkness. His silence was strange but also powerful. She realized he was listening, not to her, not to himself, but to the building around them, the hum of machines, the stomp of guards, the hiss of air through the vents. He seemed to hear every sound, every threat. For the first time, she noticed the difference between him and her people. Her kind spoke too much, trusted their technology too much, moved with pride instead of care. But this human was not proud. He was sharp. He was patient. He was dangerous. They stopped near a corner. The human raised a hand, telling her to wait. Her heart raced. She pressed herself against the wall as he leaned forward, peering into the hall. Voices. Harsh, guttural alien words. 2 guards. The woman froze, certain that this was the end. She had no weapon, no strength. She looked at the human. Would he fight? Would he abandon her? The human bent down, picked up a piece of broken metal from the floor and tossed it down the opposite hallway. The sound echoed loudly. Clang, clang, clang. The guards snapped to attention and marched away, chasing the false noise. She blinked, in disbelief. Such a simple trick. Such clever survival. No alien soldier would ever lower themselves to do something so small. Yet it worked. The human glanced back at her, his face calm, eyes sharp. He gave the smallest nod, then moved forward. For the first time she began to think he was not here by chance. He knew what he was doing. They crept through the corridors. The walls vibrated with energy, carrying the deep thrum of engines. Somewhere far above, ships came and went. Somewhere far below, prisoners screamed. The woman's legs shook, weak from days of chains. She stumbled. Her knees hit the ground with a dull thud. The human stopped instantly. He turned, crouched beside her, and steadied her with one arm. His eyes met hers. He said no words, but in that silence she saw something she had never seen before. Concern. No alien had looked at her like that. Not as an object, not as a burden, but as someone worth saving. He pointed to her feet. She looked down. Blood from her raw skin marked every step. She winced. But when she looked back up, he was already untying a strip of cloth from his own arm. He wrapped it around her foot, quick and firm. It was rough, but it stopped the bleeding. She whispered softly, almost without meaning to. Why? The human didn't answer. He only helped her stand, then urged her forward. They came to a large metal door at the end of the hallway. It towered over them, sealed with glowing locks. A blast door. The woman's chest tightened. She knew this door. Beyond it was the main corridor, the only path to freedom. But without codes, without weapons, there was no way through. She touched the cold surface, her voice breaking. It's impossible. The human studied the door, silent again. His hand traced the edges, testing the panels. He crouched, examined the wires glowing underneath. His brow furrowed. Then to her shock, he pulled a small tool from his belt. Nothing. Advanced, just a crude blade. With slow patience, he cut into the wiring. Sparks jumped. The lights flickered. Her breath caught. If the alarms triggered, they were finished. Guards would flood the hall in seconds. She reached out, trying to stop. Him. No. They'll hear. He raised his hand, steady, telling her to trust him. Something in his calm eyes silenced her fear. She stepped back. The tool scraped, twisted, cut again. A final spark shot out, and the door gave a low groan. It opened. Just enough for them to slip through. Beyond the door stretched a vast chamber. Pipes hissed overhead. Dim lights glowed like dying stars, and far away a staircase led upward. Freedom was close. But before they could move, a voice thundered from the shadows. The woman froze. She knew that voice. A tall alien stepped forward, armored, his eyes glowing cold. A commander, the one who had overseen her capture. His cruel smile twisted as he saw her free. So, he sneered, his voice echoing. The little traitor finds hope. His gaze turned to the human, and with a creature no better than dirt. The woman's heart sank. They had been found. The human did not flinch. His hand went to the ground. Quietly, he picked up a loose iron rod. He raised it like a weapon. The commander laughed. A human with a stick? This will be quick. The woman's chest tightened. Her people had always said humans were weak, powerless, nothing but noise in the galaxy. But as she looked at him, standing firm against a monster twice his size, she felt a fire rise inside her. For the first time, she began to wonder, maybe the stories were wrong. The commander's laugh echoed across the chamber, bouncing off the metal walls. His armor gleamed under the dim lights. A predator's grin etched across his face. The alien woman's body froze. She had seen this commander before. His shadow had haunted her cell. His voice had ordered her torture, and his eyes had watched as she screamed. Now he stood between her and freedom. The human gripped the iron rod tighter. His knuckles turned white. He had no armor, no shield, no weapon but a piece of scrap. And yet he didn't back away. He planted his feet firmly on the ground. The commander stepped forward. Do you really think you can fight me, human? His voice dripped with mockery. You are nothing but prey. The woman's heart pounded in her chest. She wanted to scream, to tell the human to run, to escape while he still could. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw no fear, only fire. The commander lunged. His blade flashed, slicing through the air. The human twisted aside, just in time. The strike hit the wall, sparks showering down. The human swung his iron rod, aiming for the alien's head. Metal clashed against armor with a deafening clang. The commander staggered but did not fall. He growled, fury burning in his throat. The woman stumbled back, her body trembling. She had never seen anyone fight like this before, fast, desperate, yet filled with raw courage. The commander roared and charged again. The human rolled to the side, slamming the rod into the alien's knee. The commander grunted, dropping to one side. For a brief second, the woman saw something she had never thought possible. The mighty alien commander brought down by a simple human strike. Her chest tightened. Maybe he wasn't hopeless. Maybe he wasn't weak. But the fight wasn't over. The commander rose with rage, his blade cutting through the air again. This time the human wasn't fast enough. The blade grazed his shoulder. Blood splattered across the floor. The woman gasped. Red blood. Alien to her, terrifying, yet proof of his humanity. The human winced, but didn't fall. He pressed forward, swinging again and again, forcing the commander back step by step. His movements were not graceful, but they were relentless. He fought like a storm, refusing to stop even as blood dripped down his arm. The commander sneered. You cannot win. You are only delaying death. The woman's body shook. She could not just stand there. She had lived her whole life believing humans were weak. But now she saw strength burning in front of her. A strength no one else had shown her. And in that moment, a decision sparked inside her. Her eyes darted to the wall. Pipes hissed with steam, and loose cables sparked faintly. Her people had always told her she was clever, though useless in battle. But maybe clever was enough. She rushed to the side, ignoring the pain in her legs. Her fingers worked quickly, pulling wires, twisting, valves. Sparks burst and a loud hiss filled the room. The commander turned his head for just a second. That second was all the human needed. He roared and slammed the rod into the side of the commander's helmet. Metal dented. The commander stumbled, his blade falling from his hand. The woman shouted, "Now!" The human understood. He pushed forward, striking again. The commander dropped to his knees, dazed and furious. The woman grabbed the alien blade, its weight heavy in her hands. She had never held a weapon before. Her people had forbidden it. But tonight, everything was different. She raised it high, her hands trembling. The commander looked up, eyes wide with rage and disbelief, and with all the strength she had left, she brought the blade down. The commander collapsed. Silence fell. The woman dropped the weapon, her chest heaving. Her hands shook as she stared at the fallen body. She had never killed before. The weight of it pressed down on her, cold and heavy. The human stepped to her side. He didn't speak, but his hand touched her shoulder, steady and firm. For the first time, she felt she wasn't alone in her choices. Their eyes met. No words were needed. They both knew this was only the beginning. The chamber was still. The only sound was the hiss of broken pipes. Then faintly, an alarm began to wail. Red lights flashed across the walls. The woman's eyes widened. They know. The human nodded, already moving. He motioned for her to follow. They ran, their footsteps echoing down the corridor. Every corner, every shadow felt like a trap. But the fire inside her chest burned brighter now. She was no longer a prisoner waiting to be saved. She was part of the fight. Together, they reached the staircase. The human climbed first, his injured arm pressed against his side, his jaw set, in determination. The woman followed, her legs screaming in pain but her spirit alive with new strength. At the top, a heavy door loomed. The human pushed it open. Cold air rushed inside, filled with the scent of fuel and metal. They stepped into a vast hangar. Ships lined the walls, engines glowing faintly. Soldiers shouted in the distance, racing toward them. The woman's breath caught. Freedom was so close, but danger was closer. The human glanced at her, his eyes burning. He raised the iron rod again, ready to fight. The woman tightened her fists. She was ready too. For the first time in her life, she believed in something stronger than fear, and that something was standing right beside her. The hangar stretched wide before them, filled with shadows, engines, and steel. Ships rested like silent beasts, their wings spread, waiting for command. The air buzzed with alarms, red lights flashing across the walls. Soldiers' voices echoed in the distance, growing closer every second. The alien woman's breath quickened. She had dreamed of freedom, yet now that it was close, it felt like a fragile glass. One strike, and it would shatter. The human stood beside her, blood still dripping from his wounded shoulder, iron rod clenched in his hand. His chest rose and fell with steady breaths. He looked at the ships, then at her, and nodded once. It was clear. They had to move fast. They ran across the hangar floor, their footsteps clanging against the metal. Her legs screamed in pain, but she pushed forward. The thought of being dragged back into chains gave her strength. They slipped behind a cargo crate as a patrol of guards stormed past. She pressed her back to the crate, her heart pounding in her ears. The human crouched low, silent as always, his eyes sharp, scanning every angle. For a moment they were safe. But silence gave her thoughts room to grow, and with those thoughts came the memory of why she was imprisoned. Her mind went back to that night. The night she had stolen the data crystal. The secret her people had sworn to protect at all costs. Inside that crystal was knowledge. Dangerous. Knowledge. About the alien overlords who ruled her galaxy. The truth could destroy them. But it could also destroy her people if it fell into the wrong hands? That was why she had run. That was why they hunted her. She swallowed hard, staring at the human crouched beside her. He had saved her life. He had risked everything for her. But a question gnawed at her chest. Why? Why would a human, a stranger, care so much? What if he already knew about the crystal? What if that was the real reason he came? Her fingers trembled as she touched the hidden pocket at her waist. The crystal was still there, cool and small, but heavier than any chain she had ever worn. The human tapped her shoulder, pulling her back to the moment. He pointed to a smaller ship near the far wall, its hatch half open. A perfect chance. They slipped from their hiding place, moving fast. The human's steps were sure, his wounded arm steady despite the blood. She followed close, clutching the secret to her chest. But then, a shadow dropped in front of them. A guard. Not just any guard. A captain, armored in black, his eyes burning with cruel delight. Well, the captain sneered, his voice cold. The traitor runs with vermin. His gaze shifted to the human, dripping with disgust. And a human, no less. How fitting. The woman froze. She recognized him. This was the captain who had first dragged her into the cell. His hand had been the one to lock the chains around her wrists. The human stepped forward, iron rod raised. But the captain was faster. With a motion like lightning, he struck. The human blocked the first blow, but the second slammed into his side. He stumbled. Back, coughing blood, the woman screamed. The captain laughed. Did you think you could escape? No one escapes. Her fear twisted into fire. She looked around wildly. Her eyes fell on a set of tools hanging on the wall. Without thinking, she grabbed one. A sharp wrench, heavy in her hand. The captain advanced on the human, blade raised high. The woman rushed forward, striking the captain across the helmet with the wrench. The blow rang out, a crack of steel on steel. The captain staggered. The human, seizing the moment, rammed the iron rod into the captain's chest. Armor dented, the captain roared in fury. The fight was brutal, raw. Sparks flew, blood spilled, and every strike echoed in the hangar. The woman struck again and again, fear mixing with rage. The human fought at her side, relentless despite his wounds. Finally, with one last strike, the captain fell to the ground, his armor shattered. Silence fell again. The woman's chest heaved, sweat and tears burning her face. She looked at the human who leaned against the wall, panting, blood staining his shirt. And then it happened. His hand brushed against her side as he steadied himself, and for a brief moment he touched the hidden pocket. The crystal. Her breath caught. His eyes flicked to hers, just for a second. Did he feel it? Did he know? The air between them turned, heavy, tense. She clutched the pocket, stepping back. The human's eyes met hers, calm but unreadable. He didn't reach for it. He didn't speak. But in her heart, doubt began to grow. Was he here for her? Or for the secret she carried, the yow? Alarm blared louder now. More soldiers shouted in the distance, their voices closing in. The human pushed himself upright, wincing, and gestured toward the ship again. She hesitated. Her chest twisted. Part of her wanted to run with him. Another part wanted to escape alone, to keep the secret safe. Her people had abandoned her. The overlords wanted her dead, and now, even with this strange human by her side, she wasn't sure if she was truly safe. Her eyes flicked to the ship, then to the human, then to the pocket where the crystal burned against her skin. A choice waited in front of her, and for the first time, she realized that freedom was not just about escaping chains, it was about deciding whom to trust. The hangar shook with alarms. Red lights flashed across steel walls as soldiers' voices echoed closer and closer. The alien woman stood frozen, her chest rising and falling with panic. In her hand, she clutched the pocket that hid the crystal. The secret burned against her, skin like fire. She could not let it fall into the wrong hands, not the overlords, not her people, and maybe, not even the human. The human staggered forward, his body bleeding, his steps heavy. Yet his eyes were steady, focused only on her. He motioned to the ship again, his hand trembling but firm. She didn't move. Doubt clouded her mind. He had risked everything to free her. He had bled for her. But was it because he cared, or because he wanted the crystal? The shouting grew louder. Boots thundered against the metal floor. The human looked at her, reading. Her hesitation, his jaw clenched. For the first time, his voice broke the silence. Rough, low, but clear. Go. She blinked. The sound of his voice struck her like a shock. It wasn't demanding, it wasn't cruel, it was an order wrapped in concern. He pointed at the ship's hatch. His voice rose louder now. Go, run. Her chest tightened. What about you? She whispered. He shook his head. I'll hold them. Her breath caught. Hold them? Against dozens of guards? It was madness. She stepped forward, grabbing his arm. No, you'll die. His eyes softened just for a moment. He looked at her, not at the crystal, not at the door, at her. And in that gaze, she saw something she had never seen before. Selflessness. No alien ever stayed, she whispered. Her voice cracked. No one ever fought for me. The human gave the faintest smile. I'm not them. Before she could answer, the hangar doors burst open. Soldiers flooded in, weapons raised. The human pushed her back, raising his iron rod with his one good arm. His voice thundered again. Go! She stood frozen. Her mind screamed at her to run, but her heart refused. He swung the rod, striking. The first soldier across the head. Sparks burst as metal hit armor. Another soldier charged, and the human rammed his shoulder into him, knocking him down. But more came. Too many. The woman's heart raced. He couldn't hold them all. Not like this. Her eyes darted to the captain's fallen blade lying on the floor. Without thinking, she snatched it up. The weapon felt heavy, wrong in her hands. But it was the only way. She ran forward, slashing clumsily at a guard. The blade scraped across armor, sparks flying. The soldier staggered. The human glanced at her in shock. But she shouted through the fear, I will not leave you. The battle raged. She swung the blade again, this time with more force. A guard fell. Another lunged at her, but the human slammed his rod into the soldier's back, saving her. There, movements became one. He blocked, she struck, she stumbled, he caught her. Together they carved a path through the wave of soldiers. But still they were surrounded. The human's breath grew ragged, his body trembling with exhaustion. He was bleeding too much. His knees buckled. The woman grabbed his arm, holding him. Up. Stay with me, she cried. For the first time, fear showed in his eyes, not for himself but for her. Run, he whispered again, weak but desperate. You have to run. She shook her head violently, tears blurring her vision. No, I will not abandon you like they abandoned me. The soldiers pressed closer. Blades clashed, guns raised. Then, an idea sparked in her mind. She looked at the fuel pipes running along the walls. They hissed with pressure, glowing faintly under the red lights. If she cut them, if she caused an explosion, it could give them a chance to escape. Her hands shook. It was dangerous. They might not survive, but staying here meant certain death. She turned to the human. His body sagged against her, barely standing. His eyes met hers, searching, questioning. She whispered, voice trembling, "Trust me." Before he could answer, she slashed the blade through the pipes. A violent hiss filled the air. Sparks rained down from broken wires. The fuel ignited. The hangar roared with fire. A wave of heat surged across the floor, throwing soldiers off their feet. Alarm screamed louder as the flames spread. The human grabbed her hand, pulling her through the smoke. Together they staggered toward the ship. The fire burned around them, but it also shielded them from the soldiers. They reached the hatch, coughing, their bodies trembling. The human pushed her inside first, then climbed in behind her. She collapsed against the wall, the crystal still clutched in her hand. The human slammed the hatch shut just as the fire consumed the hangar. Inside the small ship, silence fell again. The sound of fire roared outside, but within the cabin there was only the sound of their breaths. The woman looked at the human, his face pale, his body shaking from blood loss. She wanted to speak, to ask him why he risked everything, why he stayed. But the words caught in her throat. Instead, she reached out, placing her hand over his. For the first time, she didn't feel like a prisoner. She didn't feel abandoned. She felt trust. Fragile, new, but real. The ship's engines rumbled to life, and as they rose into the burning sky, she realized something. Freedom was not about running alone. It was about who chose to run beside you. The small ship rattled as its engines roared to life. Flames licked the hangar walls, smoke curling up toward the ceiling. The alien woman gripped the edge of her seat, her heart hammering against her chest. Beside her, the human sat at the controls, blood still seeping from his shoulder. His jaw was tight, eyes fixed on the blinking lights in front of him. He didn't speak, but his hands moved with purpose, pressing buttons, pulling levers. The ship groaned, then lifted off the floor. Through the viewing window, the woman saw soldiers running through fire, weapons raised, their voices drowned by the alarms. She clenched her fists. The overlords would never let them leave alive. The human threw the controls forward. The ship shot into the air, blasting through the hangar doors just as the flames consumed them. For a brief moment, stars filled the window. Endless, cold, beautiful. The woman's chest tightened. After so many days in chains, the sight of the galaxy felt unreal, but the moment didn't last. From behind, alarms beeped inside the cabin. On the screen, red dots appeared. Pursuers, enemy ships. The woman's breath caught. They're coming. The human nodded once, his eyes steady. He pulled the ship into a sharp turn, engines screaming as they dove between asteroids drifting. Near the station, the woman gripped the seat tighter, her body pressed against the wall as the ship twisted and spun. She had never flown before, but she didn't need to be told. One wrong move and they would be torn apart. The first blast hit. Blue fire streaked past, slamming into a nearby rock. The explosion lit the darkness. The woman gasped. We can't outrun them. The human's jaw tightened. He didn't look at her. He kept flying, weaving through the asteroid field, forcing the enemy ships to follow. She watched him, her mind racing. He was bleeding, exhausted, hunted, yet his hands never shook. His focus never broke. Her chest burned with something strange, something fierce. He was not flying just for himself. He was flying for her. Another blast rocked the ship. Warning, lights flashed red. The hull screamed under the pressure. The woman's eyes darted around the cabin. Weapons. There had to be weapons. Her gaze fell on a panel near her seat. Symbols marked in alien script. She knew them. She had studied her. People's ships before. With trembling hands, she pressed the panel. The ship rumbled as cannons powered up beneath the hull. The human glanced at her, surprise flashing in his eyes. She met his gaze, breathless, but determined. I can fight too. His lips curved into the faintest smile before he turned back to the controls. The first enemy ship drew close, its guns glowing. The woman pressed the trigger. Twin blasts of fire erupted from their ship, slamming into the enemy's wing. The alien craft spun out of control, colliding with an asteroid. The explosion shook the field. Her chest heaved, her hands trembling. She had never fired a weapon before. But the human gave her a quick nod of approval as if to say, good. Another enemy ship closed in. The human swerved sharply, dodging blasts. The woman fired again, her shots missing by inches. The human barked a single word. Wait. She froze. He pulled the ship into a sudden dive, spinning between two rocks. The enemy followed too close, trying to match his movements. Now, he shouted. She fired. Her blasts tore through the enemy's cockpit. The ship exploded in a shower of fire. Her heart raced. For the first time, she felt not like a prisoner, not like prey, but like a warrior. But there were still more. 3 enemy ships circled them, boxing them in. The human's breathing grew heavier. His vision blurred for a moment. He shook his head, forcing himself awake, but she saw the blood soaking his shirt. Panic surged through her. He was breaking. She reached out, steadying his arm. You can't do this alone. His eyes met hers. For a heartbeat, silence filled the cabin. Then he nodded. They moved as one. The human steered sharply, drawing the enemy ships toward a cluster of massive asteroids. The woman aimed carefully, waiting, holding her fire. The first enemy shot at them, missed but struck an asteroid instead. Rocks shattered, chunks spinning into space. The human wove between them with impossible precision. Dragging the pursuers into chaos, the woman fired again. One ship erupted in flames. 2 left. The human twisted the ship upside down, spinning through narrow gaps. The woman's finger hovered over the trigger, waiting for the right moment. One enemy ship drew too close. She fired. The blast hit its engine. The ship spiraled into another asteroid, exploding in fire. Only one remained. The last ship was smarter. It stayed back, firing from a distance. Their ship rocked with each hit. Panels sparked, alarms screamed. The woman's hands shook. We can't take much more. The human's eyes narrowed. His voice was rough, almost a growl. Then we finish it. He pulled the ship into a sharp climb, heading straight toward the largest asteroid in sight. The enemy followed, guns blazing. The woman's chest tightened. What are you doing? His only answer, trust me. At the last second, he dove down, skimming the asteroid's surface. The enemy ship followed. Too close. The human twisted sharply, pulling their ship away. The enemy ship couldn't turn in time. It slammed into the rock, exploding in a fireball that lit the stars. Silence. Only their ship remained, drifting through the debris. The alarms faded, leaving only the hum of damaged engines. The woman collapsed back in her seat, her chest heaving. Her hands still shook around the weapon controls. The human slumped forward, blood staining the console. She rushed to his side, panic filling her chest. Stay with me, she whispered. His eyes fluttered open. He gave her the faintest smile, even through the pain. For a moment, in the quiet after battle, they simply looked at each other. 2 strangers from different worlds, bound now by survival. And in that silence, she realized something. The galaxy had always called humans weak, but this one had just faced an army and refused to fall. Maybe the galaxy was wrong. The small ship drifted through the wreckage, its engines coughing with sparks. The alien woman pressed her hands against the humans, wound, desperate to stop the bleeding. His face was pale, his breath shallow, but his eyes still burned with stubborn fire. You can't give up, she whispered, her voice breaking. Not now. The human didn't answer. He only looked at her, as if to say he wasn't done. But outside the window, the galaxy was far from safe. The hangar was behind them, the asteroid field scattered in ruins. But a new shadow loomed ahead, a massive warship. Black as night, engines glowing with cruel light, the Overlord's flagship. The woman's blood turned to ice. She knew that ship. Everyone in the galaxy knew it. Entire worlds had fallen beneath its guns, and now it stood in their path. The comms crackled, filling the cabin with a deep, cold voice. The Overlord himself. Little traitor, the voice sneered. Did you think your screams would bring salvation? You were wrong. No one hears you. No one cares. And now you will watch as your hope burns. The woman trembled, her chest tight. For so long she had believed those words. She had believed no one cared. No one would come. Until the human. She glanced at him. His jaw was clenched, his hand gripping the console despite the blood dripping down his arm. He spoke for the second time since she had met him. His voice was low but strong. I did? The woman's eyes filled with tears. Those 2 words struck deeper than any weapon. The Overlord's ship fired. A beam of energy tore through space, missing their craft by inches. The shockwave rattled the cabin, sending sparks across the ceiling. The human pulled the controls, forcing their ship into a dive. The engine screamed, barely holding together. The woman gripped the seat, her heart pounding. They couldn't fight a warship. It was impossible. But then her hand brushed against the crystal hidden at her side. The secret, the forbidden knowledge she had risked everything for. Her breath caught. Maybe it wasn't impossible after all. She turned to the human, pulling the crystal from her pocket. It glowed faintly, pulsing like a living heart. "This," she whispered, "is what they want. This is why they hunted me." The human's eyes flicked to it, then back to her. He didn't ask questions, he didn't reach for it. He only nodded, trusting her. She swallowed hard. It holds the truth. A weakness, their power, can be broken. Another blast shook the ship. Time was running out. She slid the crystal into the console. The ship's systems lit up, symbols flashing across the screen. The data flowed, ancient codes, hidden knowledge. Her hands flew over the controls, entering commands, unlocking the secrets she had guarded with her life. And then, on the screen, a target appeared, the warship's core. Its one weak point. The Yob. Human's eyes hardened. He gripped the controls, pulling the ship around. Their engines howled as they charged straight toward the Overlord's vessel. The woman's chest burned with fear. The guns lit up, firing again and again. Explosions lit the void around them. The ship shook violently, pieces tearing away. She screamed, "We won't make it." The human's voice cut through the chaos. "Trust me." Her breath caught. The same words he had spoken before. And once again, against all fear, she chose to believe. They dove low, weaving through blasts, spinning through fire. The warship loomed larger, its weapons blazing. The human's hands never wavered. The woman kept the systems locked on the core, guiding him with quick, trembling words. "Left, higher, now!" Their bond became unbreakable. His strength, her knowledge, together, they moved like one. At the final moment, as the core glowed on the screen, the woman slammed the trigger. A burst of energy fired from their ship, striking. True, for a heartbeat. Silence. Then the warship erupted. Fire tore through its hull, light flooding across the stars. The Overlord's voice cut off in a final scream before vanishing into nothing. The woman shielded her eyes as the explosion swallowed the void. When it cleared, only debris remained. The flagship was gone. The ship drifted, battered and broken, but alive. The woman turned to the human. He slumped in his seat, his body weak, his eyes half closed, her chest ached. She reached for him, gripping his hand tightly. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Please." His eyes flickered open. He gave her a faint smile, blood staining his lips. "Told you. Trust me." Tears spilled down her cheeks. She squeezed, his hand harder, refusing to let go. For the first time in her life, she wasn't screaming into silence. For the first time, someone had heard her. Not her people, not her gods. A human. And as their ship drifted into the endless stars, she whispered, voice trembling but filled with hope, "Maybe the galaxy is wrong about you. Maybe. Humans are the ones we've been waiting for." The human closed his eyes, resting at last, but his faint smile remained. The woman looked out at the stars. For the first time, they didn't feel cold. They felt like freedom. And the story of her screams was no longer about despair. It was about the moment someone finally answered.